Hello and good morning, everyone. I hope you all are fit and healthy. Welcome back to English with Aisha Siddiqui. And today we'll be doing a topic of special English for the second year BA students. We have already completed the elements of poetry. The book I'm referring to, I'm showing it again. Here is this one for special English. And I have already completed the poetry part, the definition of poetry, and I'm moving forward to I've also completed elements of poetry, and today we'll be moving forward to a new topic of poetry that is figures of speech that is used in poetry. The most important part of poetry is how it emphasizes few words, and how to emphasize and bring others attention to your words is to put figure of speech in your communication. So we will be seeing what figure of speeches are added in a poetry in order to emphasize and attract the reader's mind. Okay, what is figures of speech? A mode of expression in which words are used out of their literal meaning or out of their ordinary use in order to add beauty or emotional intensity, or to transfer the poet's sense impressions by comparing or identifying one thing with the other that has a meaning familiar to the reader. Now, why figure of speech is used actually and how it is used? The words are used where their literal meaning is actually not used in a very ordinary way, but it is used in a very different kind of way to add more beauty and to bring more attachment to the reader's mind when the reader is reading the poetry, where a person can relate to it emotionally and mentally. Now, any type of song that you hear, right? Why people love few songs and do not like few songs, right? We actually say that I really love this song. Why do we say that I really love this song? Because songs actually, whenever you hear the song, you can relate to it, right? Your emotions can be connected. You can actually start feeling that maybe my life is going according to this song at this moment, or maybe in the past. Or when you hear to some songs, like suppose based on Friends, for example, a movie that was released, Cocktail, and there were a few songs on friendship and parting with friendship and all. So we can actually hear that songs and we can, relate to our college life, school life friends, or any type of friends. So why that song is actually very close to our heart, or any song is very close to our heart? Because we can relate to it, maybe because of our past experience, maybe what is going on in our life right now. Sometimes some struggling songs are there, and sometimes we are struggling with life or with our relationships, and some songs are based on life and relationships, so we actually can relate to those songs, and therefore we are attached to that songs emotionally, right? And that is why we love or we like some songs. Similarly, even poetries, some poetries, actually poetries later on is converted into songs as it is. So poetries and songs, for the people who love songs, you should also be in a habit of reading poetries, because poetries are the basic point where songs are made. So poetry also requires a little bit of attachment for the reader's mind, emotional attachment, emotional connectivity. How can we bring that emotional connectivity? By figure of speech, adding to the poetry that brings more beauty and emotional intensity to transfer the poet's sense, whatever the poet wants to say, what type of tone he, or what type of mood he wants to create. He wants to create a very sad mood by a sad song, like a sad poetry, or a very happy mood, a very love kind of poetry. So all that things are put by figure of speeches added on it, right? And by sometimes comparing someone with some nature or beauty. You must have seen many songs that are made on the beauty of a girl, or the beauty of a girl is compared to the moon, or to the nature, right? Like a flower or like a moon. So why is that so? Because by comparing with good things, you actually compliment someone, right? You're looking as, you're shining as like a moon, right? You're shining like a moon. Why will someone be so pleased to hear that I'm shining like a moon? Because he's comparing you to the moon, to the nature that God has made, and God has made his nature the most beautiful thing. So to be compared to the nature of God, anyone will be pleased to hear that. So how if I am saying that you're shining just as the moon, that means I'm using figure of speech in my language. I'm using simile in my language, right? You're just shining as the moon shines. As the moonshine is a simile that I'm using. So we it's very necessary to learn figure of speech and what type of figure of speeches are required to put into a poetry. So let's move forward. The first one, just I said, a simile. What is a simile? A figure of speech in which two fundamentally unlike things are explicitly compared. Explicitly compared, usually in a phrase introduced by as or like. Just I said that you are shining as the moon. So if I'm using as, or you're shining like the moon, I'm using simile because I'm comparing someone to another person or a nature or a thing or anything. So whenever you're comparing two things, to bring more effect in the way you say. So if I just said that you're shining today, the person will say, okay, maybe my skin is shining and glowing. But if I say you're shining like the moon, that will be much more emphasized, right? That means, wow. So, this is the way figure of speech is put in the poetry to bring more emphasis and more emotional attachment in the poetry. So, what is simile? Just few examples are given. Good coffee is like friendship, rich and warm and strong. So if the coffee is rich and warm, of course, nobody will like to drink cold coffee. Cold coffee means not that cold coffee, but you've prepared a hot coffee and it has become cold. So you'll not like it. But and of course, warm coffee and strong coffee is liked by maximum people. So good coffee is like friendship. You have compared your coffee and friendship. So you see that how two things are compared in order to show more emphasis on friendship. You know, life is rather like opening a tin of sardines. We are all of us looking for the key. This is also comparing two things. So here you know what is simile and how you can put in order to exaggerate or elaborate your language, communication, poetry, songs, etc. Metaphor, the second type of figure of speech. A figure of speech in which an implied comparison is made between two unlike things that actually have something in common. Now, here, metaphor is very similar to simile, but do not get confused, as simile mostly as and like words are used, and you mostly say that this person is like that one or she's just as that one. But in metaphor, two different or two opposite things are compared by one common thing in them. So between the lower east side tenements, the sky is a snotty handkerchief. The streets were a furnace, the sun an executioner. What do you mean by that? Opposite things are put together. Okay, let's see the third type of figure of speech required in a poetry. Personification. A figure of speech in which an inanimate object or abstraction is given human qualities or abilities. Now, this is also a very important figure of speech put into a poetry, or a very, you can say, a very elaborated thing that you can put, because it's not real. Uh, Such as some personificated movies that I can tell you is like Spider-Man. Of course, a person cannot fly like a Spider-Man, or I mean, what all he's done in the movie, but it is a personificated movie. That means he is given um, the human quality. I mean, spider has become like a human. A human quality is given. Um, Bollywood movies like Krish and many more, robot, right? But robotics have come new, so it has come into technology. But rather, like Krish and Spider-Man and all this is out of the way, where it is a personified movie. It cannot be real, but people assume it as it is made out of imaginary things. I mean, some inanimate object. What do you mean by inanimate? Some non-living thing is given the quality of a human. For example, the wind stood up and gave a shout. Can the wind shout? Right? Have you heard the wind suddenly gets a boom? But what is it? Whenever you can hear the sound of wind, like the sound that goes when your little window is open and lot of air is coming through it, so the wind actually makes a sound like boom. So that is called shout of the wind, but it is not actually screaming and shouting. He whistled on his fingers. Can somebody whistle on his finger? Does not mean, just a minute. Okay, yeah, we are here in personification now. Kicked the withered leaves about and thumbed the branches with his hand. Thumbed. Can you actually thumb it? Right? So nobody can do that. And said he'd kill and kill and kill, and so he will, and so he will. So the first line you can see here, the wind stood up and gave a shout. So an inanimate, that is a non-living thing, is given the human quality, is known as personification. Now, the other figure of speech is onomatopoeia, the use of words that in sorry imitate the sounds associated with the objects or actions they're referred to. Onomatopoeia is actually words that are used to imitate the sounds, such as we actually say, no, बहुत बक बक मत करो. What is bak bak? Means too much of talking is called bak bak. It's actually a sound. Or uh, mostly in Hindi, I will say the rain, I mean, barish ho rahi hai, chum chum. What is chum chum? It's all the payal sound, payal ki sound hai chum chum, right? So all these things are onomatopoeia used in the poetry where the sounds are given. Or you say the clock is going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. So the tick tock sound is of the clock. Or you can say the clouds are going, the wind is going. So all these sounds that are given, it's called onomatopoeia, like chuck, chuck, puff, puff. Now you can read it on slide. Uh, don't laugh when I'm doing that. Okay, it's chuck, 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 puff, 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 ding dong, ding dong. What is this? Little train rumbled over the tracks. So the train sound they're doing, or you can say coo, chuk, 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 chuk. So this chuk, 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 foo, 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 foo is actually sound of train. That's onomatopoeia. Then tring or bring, the alarm rang, or ting tong, the bell rang in the silent room. So all these things are onomatopoeia where the sounds are given to inanimate objects or any type of objects. I'm getting married in the morning, ding dong. That means a bell is there. So you can see that what is onomatopoeia. Now, the other type of figure of speech used in poetry is hyperbole. Now, what do you mean by that? A figure of speech in which exaggeration is used to emphasize or affect an extravagant statement. Too much of exaggeration. बहुत बड़ा चढ़ा के बोलना, right? बहुत बड़ा चढ़ा के बोलना. We say, right? उतना बड़ा चढ़ा के मत बोलो. If someone is doing that, you have to say you are using hyperbole. That means you're using the figure of speech hyperbole. ज़्यादा ही बोल रहे हैं, right? To emphasize or exaggerate something in a very extravagant, extraordinary way. How is it? I had to walk 15 miles to school in the snow. Nobody must be working that much, but we have to say, right? No, I'm working whole day. No, you're not working 24 hours or 24/7, right? But what do we say? I'm just working whole day. Maybe you're working for a lot of, a lot of time you're sitting and working, but not 24 hours continuously. You have to go to the washroom, you have to eat, you have to sit, you have to sleep. So you cannot work 24 hours. But what we say that I have to work the whole day. So that's called exaggeration. Or I've been listening to you the whole day, or the whole night. That means you're not actually listening to someone the whole night, but maybe a lot of time you're awake with that person like till 2 or 3 or whatever time, half a night or midnight, you can say. So you just say that I was awake the whole night, right? You could have knocked me over with a feather. What do you mean? Like, if I was sleeping and I did not get up early in the morning, you could have knocked me with a feather. Now, if I knock you with a feather, will you get up? Nobody will, right? Now, if I sleep and someone actually knocks me with anything, I will not get up. Frankly, so knocking with a feather is just a hyperbole. I mean, to talk too much. That I not wanted to get up, so I just said on the purpose of saying that उठा देते मुझे, knock me with a feather. Why didn't you do it? That means I not wanted to get up, but I'm just saying it, exaggerating the statement. So you got it. What is all these figure of speech? You can also use it in your language, in your communication skill. Does not It only does not get limited to poetry. So do not think that, yes, of course in poetry you use it a lot to bring a poetic effect, to bring a song like effect, or to exaggerate and beautify your poetry. But while you're talking and your communication skills, you want to improve your communication skills, you can also put all these figure of speech in your communication skill. You do not need to be limited and put it into poetry. And if you're using all these things, all these figure of speech in your communication skills, I definitely promise you, your communication skills will improve. This person who's in front of you and listening to you will actually have a very different effect of your talk, and will be really moved by the way you speak, because you bring all these figure of speech in the way you're speaking. So it is exaggerated, and I'm not talking that you have to exaggerate what you speak, but you can actually build in your personality. Your personality does not mean only your looks or how you're dressing up, but it also means how you're talking, the way you're speaking, the hand movements when you're speaking. Not also only all this, but what words is coming out of your mouth, right? So the type of words that you choose to speak, the way you have to explain one small topic, or a big topic, into short, by using all these things. So I hope you all liked the video and you all understood what type of figure of speeches are required in a poetry. These questions can come in your exams, like state the figure of speeches used in a poetry. So you can name them, you can explain them in detail, you can give examples as well. It will give you almost very good marks, and definitely it will also help you in your communication skills. If you liked and you're benefited from the video, please give it a thumbs up and keep watching videos. And also subscribe to the channel if you all have not yet subscribed. You all will find more knowledge on English language, communication skills, personality development, special English, and optional English, all types of English. So thank you very much. Take care.